Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
This morning we are continuing our journey through the pages of the book Divine Audacity by Unity Minister Reverend Martella Whitsett. And a lot of you are engaged in this 7-week program of study in groups that are meeting either here at Unity on the Bay or in private homes throughout the Miami-Dade County area and beyond. Let me just remind you, if you happen to be in a home study group, that we encourage you to join together with those who are involved in this study with you. And right now, get yourself a table for the November 6th, 2015 Unity on the Bay Gala, which is over at the Treetop Ballroom at Jungle Island. Because this is a wonderful way for you to bring to closure the celebration of the 7 weeks of study that you're experiencing together, and come together and enjoy that event. It's always a wonderful, magical evening, and I'm sure it will be again this year. In this book, Divine Audacity, Reverend Linda does a wonderful job, I think, of providing us with a contemporary understanding of a teaching that is very old. You may not know this, but the Unity way of life began in the late 1800s with a married couple named Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and through their own spiritual discoveries, they pulled together a framework for teaching that was called then the 12 Powers of Man. We realize today these are 12 powers in every man and in every woman, so we just simply say the 12 powers. This is the original Unity teaching, and it is based on a metaphysical understanding of Scripture, which means that in Unity, while we do employ the Bible as our basic textbook, we do it in a way that is quite different from many other religious persuasions, because we believe that every character and every situation in the Bible is symbolic of something that is happening inside of us as we move through our own spiritual journey. And it's from that perspective that Charles Fillmore originally interpreted Jesus and the 12 disciples as the Christ consciousness and the 12 spiritual faculties that are quickened within us as we begin to accept the identity as being made in the image and likeness of God. So what this means is the moment that you begin to lay aside the limiting definitions of yourself that you have invested your belief and faith in, and take on the understanding that you, in fact, are the Christ presence, just as Jesus was some 2,000 years ago. That identity in itself, when accepted by you and invested within by you, begins to quicken 12 spiritual faculties that are represented by the 12 disciples, 12 different colors, and 12 different locations in your physical body. So this is really an exploration of the original Unity teaching that we're engaged in. And this morning we're going to be talking about 2 of those 12 powers, namely imagination and will. And I'd like to beg your participation in a little exercise by asking you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to just spend a little time contemplating, or shall I say, imagining your idyllic life. If you were right now in this moment living the life ideal for you, what would be contained within it in terms of your home, your employment, your relationships, your physical well-being, your peace of mind? Imagine with me your ideal life. And now I'd like for you to think of one thing that you could do, one action that you could take that would move you in the direction of that ideal life. And ask yourself if this morning, right now in this room, you're willing to commit to that one action, to that one change to that one shift that would support you in moving toward your ideal existence. And say silently to yourself, I commit to this. I commit to this. And then open your eyes. Now, what you just did was you employed 2 of your 12 spiritual powers, your 12 spiritual faculties. You imagined something, and then you exercise your will. That is the power of your commitment, and yes, the power of your discipline. And a lot of us don't like that word discipline because we feel like it's something that all too often was imposed upon us by external sources, and most of us in Unity think we're pretty rebellious in nature and don't like to be told what to do, even if it's us telling ourselves what to do. But you got to think of discipline in a more positive vein than that. To have a commitment that you're willing to stand by and to discipline your life experience to the degree that you can stay with that commitment. That's the exercising of your will and the exercising of your imagination. And together, your imagination and your will are your divine connection. They can be that which moves you from the ordinary life into a life that is made up of the content of your dreams. Because I can tell you this, my friends, your experience of life will always be whatever you imagine and will it to be. Your experience of life. So if you like your life this morning, congratulations. You're exercising your imagination and your will to bring forth an experience that works for you. And that's great, but for those of us in the room this morning that maybe are not as happy with our life as we'd like to be, let's dedicate ourselves to reactivating our imagination. You know, I can tell you this, I'm going to be spending this coming weekend with my 5-year-old granddaughter. This girl has got an imagination beyond comprehension. She goes into all kinds of places and spaces that just astound me. And then I realized that same capacity is within me, but what happened to it? You know, what did I do with it? Well, I let the world of facts and statistics and analysis sort of build its cave around me to the point where I at times forget that I have this amazing power to imagine whatever I choose to imagine. So this morning I'm really encouraging you to wake up and realize your imagination will be the blueprint of the life that you're desiring to live if you'll go back to it, if you'll open it up and allow it to really express. Imagine with me this morning and then back up whatever it is that you image with your commitment, with your will, with your discipline, and see it come forth into your life. A lot of you know that one of my favorite places to hang out, and I think it's probably the favorite place of a number of you, it's just up the road a bit in the Orlando area called Disney World. Love this place. Can't get too much Disney World. Are you with me? And you know, people flock to Disney World. Good times, bad times, rich times, poor times. How do they do it? I don't know, because it ain't cheap. But they just pile into Disney World by the truckload. Everybody just loves it. And what do they love about it? It's because the moment you cross through those gates, you are in a world of pure imagination. I don't hold too many people as idols in my life anymore, but I still hold Walt Disney as a great idol because he never let the world compromise his amazing imagination. And somehow I think when we cross over the threshold of that place, we all remember the imaginative qualities that are within us. And it's a beautiful thing to experience and to behold. So we all flock to Disney World. Disney coined a term early in his career, and it's this: Imagineer. You know, it's Imagineers on the Disney team that put all of these amazing experiences together for us, for our entertainment and for our inspiration. And I love the term because it brings together imagination and will in a beautiful way. The term Imagineer is one who imagines and then engineers the means and methods by which the imagination has created. So we have this ability. We can all, each of us, in fact, we are Imagineers. The question is, what are we Imagineering? What are we coupling our imagination and our will with? And the industriousness of putting things together and making something turn from the invisible realm of our imagination into the manifest world around us. We do this not only with our lives in terms of our chosen careers and our family situations and our places in which we live, in terms of imagination in that regard, but we do it in a broader sense in terms of the very philosophies that we embrace in life, the philosophies that we invest our belief in. We utilize imagination and will to create belief systems that ultimately result in realities in our life. And one of the greatest frameworks I've ever been exposed to in terms of graduating states of consciousness that you can imagine is put together by a fellow named Reverend Michael Beckwith, who is the spiritual leader of the Agape International Center in Los Angeles. I think this is a brilliant understanding of how we as individuals evolve spiritually and the different levels at which we invest our belief in. It starts with something that we refer to as to me, and then it graduates to by me, and then through me, and then ultimately as me. Those 4 levels of consciousness. Remember, you're free at any time to invest yourself in any one of those understandings. And let me share a little bit with you about each understanding. It starts with to me. Most of us began our spiritual journey believing that everything was happening to us. We had no control over anything. We were victims, constant victims. Well, if he would change or she would change or circumstances would change or the boss would change or the job would change or the wife or the husband would change, because look at all these terrible things that they're inflicting upon me. I'm such a victim. You see, you imagine yourself living in a world of victimization, and then you empower it with your will, and so it is. You're a walking, talking victim wherever you go. You're always paranoid. You're always on the lookout for the next catastrophe, because that is the world that you have imagined. That is the philosophy that you have imagined, and it is the philosophy that you are investing yourself in. Now, if you happen to be feeling like a victim in the room this morning, that's okay, because we have other selections that you can choose from. You can graduate from to me to by me. And all you have to do is let go of imagining yourself to be a victim. I assure you, the moment you stop imagining that you're a victim, you will stop being victimized. That's how powerful you are. So how many of you would like to graduate today from to me, oh my God, here it comes again, to by me? Look, I have some control here. I have some power here. There's something I can do. What can I do? I can change my mind. I can change my mind. I can change the thoughts that I'm thinking. All I have to do is let go of my understanding of myself as a victim and start to realize by the power of my mind, things don't happen to me, they happen by me. They happen by the power of my mind and the power of my thoughts, and this is a wonderful graduation to celebrate, because all of a sudden you feel like you can do anything, and the reality is you can. All you have to do is make up your mind, and you can execute. And yet, there is a step even beyond that. Many of us are engaged in this step right now this morning as we're sitting in this room. It is the graduation from things happening because of you to things happening through you. And the reason this is so incredibly uncomfortable to go from by me to through me is because you and I have to let go of something that we don't want to let go of. Control. How many of you can honestly say, I'm thrilled about the prospect of letting complete control go of my life. Just let it go. I want no control anymore. I don't want to control anybody, anything, myself. Let it all go. Because why? Because the power of God is going to work through me, and I don't need to control anything. It's a lovely thought, and I do everything in my power every day to embrace it. And yet there's a part of me that's just still grabbing hold, saying, I've got to hang on. I've got to maintain control here, or all hell will break loose, right? Guess what? The moment that you let go, all hell is not going to break loose. All hell is breaking loose because of this. And the moment you let go, all heaven breaks loose because you're not trying to hold it back anymore. You're not trying to control every situation and circumstance of your life anymore. You're letting go and you're moving with the flow of the universe, which is a beautiful place to live. But getting there, it's another story. You just have to let go. Yeah, right. Let go and let God. Love those words, but man, practicing them is really, really challenging, right? Yeah, let go, let God, sure. But yet they're true. And all you have to do, again, my friends, is imagine that they're true. Just join me this morning in imagining that you could let go of control. Because you see, the only reason why you're apprehensive about it is because you haven't really imagined a life where you could let go and let God. So you keep imagining that, and then you take little steps like we did at the beginning. Think of one thing you can do that will move you in that direction and commit to it. Well, I could stop telling my 34-year-old son what to do every day. You know, that would be a step in the right direction, right? Yeah. So, just whatever steps you can take to let go a little bit at a time, and that will graduate you ultimately from by me to through me. Now the presence of God, the power of God is rolling through you, and it's a much more pleasant experience, and you're getting secure with it. And yet, what do you know? As always, life is evolving, your belief system is evolving, you have to change again. Now you have to release any and all sense of separation between yourself and God. You see, even with the presence of God working through you, it's still the presence of God working through you. There's still a duality there. So the next step of actually as me is you imagining that you are actually an individualized expression of the Almighty. Just imagine that. And then begin to take steps in that direction so that you can move from through me to as me. Now, where it goes after we recognize totally our oneness with God, there's no duality left, I think it's probably another step following that. But don't you think this is probably enough for one day or one lifetime? But you see, all of these models, friends, they're just figments of your imagination. And yet, we might as well utilize our imaginations in ways that serve us well. This is why worry is such a problem. Because worry is nothing but you and I investing the power of our imagination in frightful, limiting, suspicious, and challenging situations in life. Now, you're free right now in this moment to imagine anything, any way you like. So my encouragement to you is to begin to recognize as you bring your will together with the will of God, you recognize the will of God is the assurance. The will of God is the assurance of your peace. It's the assurance of your harmony. It is the assurance of your wholeness. It is the assurance of your success, your abundance, and joy. How many would like to have that will of God manifesting in your life right now and in all your days to come? There really shouldn't be a hand left down, because that means that God's will for your life is the best possible will you could unite with. There is a statement that I often use when I move into times of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. I actually thought it was from A Course in Miracles, but when I went to put this message together for you, I discovered it's not in The Course in Miracles. It comes from a poet by the name of Sun Yor. And these are the words: I will to will the will of God. I will to will the will of God. Will you say that with me? I will to will the will of God. The will of God is not that you should be punished, not that you should be tormented, certainly not that you should endure a life of hardship only to wind up dancing on hot coals in hell. The will of God is your peace. The will of God is your harmony, your wholeness, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your success. You're a child of God. Can you possibly imagine having a child and then wishing anything but the highest and the noblest and the best for that child? What makes you think that God would not want the same for you? Not at some distant point in the future after you pass away, but right now. Reverend Linda, in the pages of her book, Divine Audacity, says that if you can imagine a life and then live as if that life were your life, you begin to embody all the characteristics necessary to make it your reality. She says, by the power of imagination, I live as if. I incarnate or embody the character necessary for the ideal to become real. I become the personification of fulfilled consciousness. My friends, whether you've ever realized it or not, allow me in this room this morning to be the first to tell you, you are an Imagineer. It is your vocation in life. You're doing it every moment. The question is, what are you imagining? And what are you willing into expression? My suggestion to you in this room today is that you begin to live each day as if you were perfect, you were whole, and you were free. And watch how quickly all the facts, all the analysis, all the situations, and all the people in your world conform to the power of your imagination and your will. God bless you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.